Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Brandy Seminaro from the CHC Center for Healthy Communities at Chico State. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you could just type in the chat box that you can hear me, that would be awesome. Okay, awesome. It looks like you guys can hear me. So thank you so much. So welcome to our CalFresh Outreach Day webinar. So if you've worked with us for a while, you know that we have done a few of these over the last couple of years. And this is just definitely an update on those past webinars that we've done. We've learned a lot along the way, not only on our own campus, but also from the other campuses and other partners that we've been working with. So we're super excited to share this webinar with you. I also want to mention that for our Far North partners that are on this call, this is definitely a more student-focused webinar, but it absolutely has plenty of things that you can take from it and use with the student populations that you may also be working with, or the other populations that you may be doing events for. So definitely a lot of overarching things that we have to share with you today. So just a couple of things, or just one big thing. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type them into the chat box. I'll make sure that I'm keeping an eye on that. And without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Melissa Stearns and Karina Apodaca from our Chico State team.
Next slide. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and happy Friday. Karina and I are here with a few of our colleagues, and we are excited to share this webinar with you. So sit tight. We're going to get started. First thing, CalFresh Outreach Day goal. So the day is definitely planned around assisting as many students as possible in applying for CalFresh, obviously within a short period of time, because you are not going to be out there all day. But don't forget that this is also a way to increase people's awareness of CalFresh. So you're going to be out there with some logos. Hopefully you'll have a tablecloth and some materials with that CalFresh logo on there. And it's just some exposure to students who may not stop by that day, but they see that and they see that logo. And so think about that as some extra exposure and awareness for them. Next slide. Just a reminder that your scope of work includes pre-screens, applications, and of course, applications approved. And each one of you is a little bit different in what those numbers are. And you should know what they are from your scope of work that we have discussed with you previously. Next slide.
Hi everyone, now it's Karina. So of course you're probably asking, where do you even begin? So these are some of the things to think about when you're trying to plan your CalFresh Outreach Day. So setting up a time or a date and time and a location where you're going to be hosting this event. Of course, thinking about partnerships on like with campus departments, maybe sororities and fraternities, and possibly other organizations and clubs on campus. Also promoting with visuals. So having someone create a post on social media, creating a flyer that can be posted all over campus, even in your pantry, uploading it to any other websites, and definitely finding other ways to promote. We will be going into further detail about all of these later on. So next slide. So when selecting a date and time, it's best to do your event mid-semester from what we've experienced. And Tuesdays and Thursdays typically may be the busiest days on campus, but of course every campus is different. So whichever works for your campus, I'm sure will work great. So midday, also 10 to 2, you start a little bit in the morning, but also being available in the afternoon as well. Next slide.
Choosing a location. Obviously, you're going to want to find an area that is going to yield you high results with lots of students. So make sure you find a location on campus or within your organization at your site that you're going to see a lot of foot traffic, maybe in between classes, the main breezeway, the walkway, wherever that is. So you know your campus or your location better than we do, so you can kind of decide where that might be. Next slide. Partner up. So make sure that you're nurturing relationships. Remember, that's part of your scope of work, is to build some relationships with other organizations. So leverage those relationships that you do have with some campus organizations or clubs, food banks. If you have Greek organizations on your campus, they're a great partner. They do a lot of different events on campuses typically. A really good partner to be able to work with if you want to do a CalFresh Outreach Day. Also, check with your local food bank for some donations, because as you know, food always brings people to the table, and so we want people to come to your table. We do have a link in here for the California Association of Food Banks, and we're going to take you there. So the first person who can type in a zip code, Randy's going to look that up, and we're going to see what food banks are in your area. So go. Okay, it looks like 91789 from Caitlin. Okay, that's down in the Los Angeles area. So that's the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. So as you see, all you have to do is type in that zip code and it will direct you to this website where you can get some more information and then contact those food banks. So great resource here. Next slide.
So as Melissa was mentioning, partnering up is super important for this event, but we try to emphasize that partnering up with your campus, or with your pantry, excuse me, is super important. So time at CalFresh Assistance with your pantry is a great support system for each of your students. Knowing that your CalFresh is available, or CalFresh Assistance is available within your pantry, will also, if they don't have the time to go in and apply that day, they know they can go back to the pantry and apply for CalFresh there too. So this is also a great way to promote both your pantry and your CalFresh team as well. Next slide. So this is where you start promoting with visual. So creating an appealing poster for your pantry, even anywhere on campus. But if you do find that you are going to post on campus, you want to make sure you get those approved and you get them stamped before going and posting them everywhere. You want to promote all over campus, in your pantry, anywhere in the dining halls, emailing flyers to clubs and other organizations, having students pass out flyers to other students, promoting this event. Maybe creating a little half sheet or a quarter of a sheet would be great as well. Going into classrooms and asking professors if you could possibly write on their classroom whiteboard and putting it in the corner, advertising when it's going to be and what time, and maybe if you are going to get a food donation, maybe writing in there like free food. And also, if you're comfortable with going in and giving a little presentation on CalFresh and then adding that there's going to be a CalFresh Outreach Day on your campus, that's amazing too. It seems to be very effective. So make sure you ask permission from a professor, letting them know what date and time you'd come. Make sure this is all obviously a little bit before your event to give them time, and maybe doing these presentations more in different classrooms before the event. So next slide.
Promote, promote, promote. Okay, as many of you know, social media is a huge thing for students. So this is where they hang out a lot and they get a lot of their information. So be sure that you are posting this on social media. The big ones for students seem to be Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. So make sure you're doing some posts with that. Facebook is also a big one. So do some bigger outreach on that as well. Create a nice post and begin to share it. Here's an idea. Assign a student or an intern to do this. Like, what fun that they, as part of their scope of work, get to play around on social media. Win-win for both of you on that one. Have others repost it as well. All right, next slide.
I would also just like to share that shameless plug, we're doing a social media work group webinar next Friday at the same time, and it's going to be super focused on CalFresh Outreach Day. So if you're interested in this subject a little bit, getting a little bit more in depth on it, we would love for you to join us on that. So yeah.
Thanks, Brandy. So this is an example of a flyer that we created here. Pretty simple, but you want to make sure that you use bright colors, especially fitting for this time of year. This citrus fruit is gorgeous. Citrus is my favorite also, so it's very appealing. But also don't forget to make sure you put that you have the dates and the times and your location on there, as well as your logos. So again, that they can tie that back to you. And of course, we have at the top, very, very top, need food. That kind of draws people in. So, and again, Canva, as we discussed in the trainings, Canva is a great tool for you to be able to use for creating these flyers if you don't have graphic students. Okay, next slide.
So now we get into prepping for this event. You always want to make sure you start preparing in advance. So maybe creating a list of what you are going to need, so that way you are tallying up every time you are getting things ready to go. So paper supplies can include all of your pre-screens, your contact sheets, making sure you have your pre-screen tally sheets, and any other paper supplies that you may be bringing with you to this event. And office supplies can include anything from pens to highlighters, paper clips and envelopes. Envelopes, if you have final pages that you're giving your students at the very end of applying for CalFresh, they can just put those in an envelope. Having enough pens for your team and also for the students. And if you are bringing laptops and iPads, making sure you bring extra chargers, and just in case one of them doesn't charge, then you have a backup. So always make sure you have some backups on those. And then if you are doing food donations, make sure you have supplies. You don't want a student carrying a big thing of kale walking around campus. So maybe bringing little paper bags and then adding little educational materials if you're giving out bags, like a little thank you card in there with maybe your CalFresh information, just in case they can't sit down and do an application. They can meet with you later or call you and set up another appointment with you to actually apply for CalFresh. So next slide. And if you are providing a food giveaway, just make sure that every student gets a bag, regardless if they are applying for CalFresh. We cannot incentivize. So even if they're just walking by and they aren't a student, make sure you give them a bag. This is a good time to say, hey, have you heard about CalFresh? Bring up your little skits that you've made up and hand them a bag, regardless if they're applying for CalFresh or not. Just remember that.
Elevator speech.
Your elevator speech, yes. This is a great time to use your elevator speech. So next slide.
Preparing. Whether or not you're prepared, weather can happen. Wind, rain, sun, fog, all kinds of things. So obviously, do check your weather app, weather station, whatever it is that you find out what the weather is going to be, and plan around that. bring some protection. If it's going to be raining, maybe you should have a backup location planned. If it's going to be sunny, you might want to have a canopy out there, or even raining, you can put yourself under a canopy. If it's going to be windy, you might want to think about getting some weights to hold those legs down so that you don't have to use 4 of your people to hold the canopy down. That's kind of a waste of manpower there. Make sure, again, if it's going to be windy, that you have paper weights for those things that you do have on the table so they're not blowing down the breezeway and you're running after them. That's not good. Maybe some towels if you're expecting some rain. If it's going to be warm, yeah, might want to bring some fans, extension cords if you're close to an electrical outlet, or they have those lovely, inexpensive handheld battery-powered fans that you can use as well. So be prepared for the weather. Next slide. How much do you prep? Great question. Prep for about 1% of your total school enrollment. At Chico State, we have about 17,500 students. And typically on a CalFresh outreach day, we reach out to or help about 100 to 150 students. So kind of plan for that as you're thinking about this. Bring those pre-screens, your contact sheets, your final packet sheets, pens, etc. Always prep for a little bit extra.
And you might be wondering what a final packet sheet is. And that is the one single page that you give to a student after helping them apply for CalFresh. It's just a little reminder of the next steps following that application process. And that is in 3 little steps: is waiting next for the county interview, then turning in verifications. There'll be a little slot where you can put the date that they applied for their CalFresh, and that is their 30-day time start. And then also a little slot for your county phone number. You want to make sure you provide them with that county number just in case. And then also at the bottom of that sheet, that will have information about you. So about your office number, your times, and things like that. So you want to make sure you always provide this sheet to the students too. So next slide. So paper applications. I know we all prefer online applications, but you never know when you could possibly use a paper application. So you want to make sure that everything is completely filled out and it's legible. This will help for those who are doing the data collection and also help the county when you turn in these applications. And you want to make sure that you're actually filling the contact sheets and ROIs if your campus is using an ROI. If some of you don't know what an ROI is, it's a release of information. This includes the applicant's personal information and a signature that basically authorizes us to receive any information related to one's application. So if you are using an ROI, just make sure you get those signed by your students as well as your contact sheets as well. Next slide. So we've all kind of moved on to doing online applications, but if you are using online applications for this event, you want to make sure that you do bring these items to your event just to be prepared. If you're using iPads or laptops, you want to make sure you bring chargers. If you have a place where a building next to you that you can maybe plug some extension cords in for those chargers, that would be amazing. And I put in a hotspot here, which basically provides you with internet just in case if you're located in an area that doesn't receive or gets Wi-Fi, then you can use this hotspot if you're doing online applications. If you're in a location where you can't get Wi-Fi, then this is where you would also use paper applications. So next slide.
So your county partnership, again, I think a lot of you have relationships with your counties and you want to make sure you nurture that. Do let your point person at your county know that you're going to be having this CalFresh Outreach Day. maybe they would like to attend the event or partner with you. If they're wanting to attend the event, maybe they're going to bring several of their workers to help with the applications. But do definitely notify them that you're planning to have this day and that there may be an increase in the number of applications coming in that day so that they're prepared and ready to go, especially for the larger counties, because you may have quite a bit of influx in applications coming in that day. So definitely let them be aware of that. Next slide.
I would just like to touch on a couple of the questions that came in the group chat. So Caitlin asks, regarding the ROIs, once we get them from our students, do we submit them to DPSS, office, or eligibility worker, or anyone in particular? So I would say the best practice with this would be to, if you're going to collect an ROI, and again, it's an optional thing to collect, but if you're going to collect them from every student, what we used to do in the past is we would have them on file, and then we would submit them to the office or the eligibility worker as we were needing to help those students navigate some sort of issue that they came upon in their case. We do have a couple of campuses that are doing ROIs and filling them out for every student that applies, but that definitely is a lot of paperwork, and it really depends on how often you're having to step in and be sort of that middle communicator between the student and their eligibility worker. And then the second question that came in from Jessica. Hi, Jessica. When you do paper applications, do you go back and enter them, or do you scan them in, take them to the county? So for this, if you are doing paper applications, there is a spot where the student or the applicant does need to sign off on the application. So it definitely is, you definitely would need to turn in that paper application to the county directly rather than typing it in. So in this case, I would say if you're doing a big event like this and you have multiple applications, it's great if you can go and deliver them to that county office, just so that you know that they arrived there and they're able to get started on those applications right then and there. Definitely with mailing, it takes a little bit longer for them to get there, so I would absolutely say that if you're able to take them to that office right away, that's definitely the best case scenario.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next slide. All right, during your event, what you want to do is kind of figure out a system that's going to work for your team. What we would suggest is having designated areas for each process that the students are going to be going through. For example, we found that an assembly line system seems to work really well. So we have 1 or 2 people helping students with the pre-screen and the contact sheets and having students fill those out. And then we'll kind of move them down the line, and then they go to the next little station where we have a couple of people assisting them with the applications online. And once they complete that, we have them move down to the after application information. And that's what Karina just spoke about, that little packet, where you can give them this information, kind of just go over that sheet again, put it in an envelope for them, and then maybe a food bag station if they haven't already received. If they weren't already drawn in by you and your beautiful produce, then this is where you could hand them a food bag. Okay, next slide.
All right, so during your event, confidentiality is really, really important. So of course you're filling out all of these contact sheets that have personal information, and we all want to make sure that these are not being exposed to anyone else. So we always want to create a designated place and a person of where we're going to keep these contact sheets safe. So you can have someone designated with a lockbox, making sure that when a contact sheet is done and given to them, they put that immediately into a lockbox. Also having a manila envelope, making sure that it's closed at all times, a folder where you can just open it, put the contact sheet in, and close it again. And of course, we want to make sure that none of this information can be seen by anyone else other than your team. Next slide. So, oh, go back one. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. This is where all your hard work and prep goes into play. So you want to make sure that everyone is positive and and having fun. So people will be really excited and wanting to know more about CalFresh if you make things fun. So play some music, get a speaker and use someone's phone, have people moving around, engage in conversations, have students go out with food bags, talking about CalFresh, and if they're interested, direct them to your booth. Have people dress up, wear those veggie costumes, have someone be an apple or a banana and walk around. And also, if you are providing food tastings, people love food. So if you can provide a food tasting, that is great. And as people are walking and engaging in conversations, this is where that elevator speech or those fun, catchy phrases come into play. So just make sure if you have a bag of food, just say, hey, you want some free food? And then that's where you can talk about CalFresh. So yeah, next slide.
Okay, then after your super fun event, you're feeling really grateful that you had such a successful time. I've done a lot of events, and this is where people tend to run back to the office or away, wherever they're going. So make sure you're assigning people to help you with cleanup so that you're not the only one out there taking that canopy down, taking the tables and chairs down, cleaning up, etc. Make sure that you have your contact sheets and that they're going to be entered into the master log after the event. I recommend doing this. Just set aside some time to make sure that that's getting done so that you're not scrambling at the last minute for reports to get this information in, but you're kind of keeping up with that. And of course, obviously, thank your team because they're all a big part of making the success. So, all right, now I think we have Brandy who's going to be talking about the next slide because Brandy has been at some of these events, has attended many of these events, and so she's going to give a little tip on that.
Yes, so I just want to remind everyone that CalFresh Outreach Day does not have to be a standalone event. So what we sort of described is what works really well on our campus, but it can look a million different ways. And we just really want to empower you all to just to plan your event around your students and to just make sure that it's a sort of setup and a sort of event that's going to work with your students' schedules and when they're on campus and all of that. So we definitely have seen many of our partners work with other community partners to do these events. So working with Catholic Charities is a great partnership. Working with student health or student counseling, we've had a couple of campuses that have really, they've sort of paired up with the Health Week event that has gone on their campus so that it's all sort of health related, health focused, nutrition focused. That's a really great partnership because it's all, it's all under that same umbrella. We also have seen workshops be super successful with some of our campus partners. And so these workshops look a little bit different than having sort of an outdoor event. A workshop more so is, maybe it's inside, maybe it's with a specific group. So we used to do these sort of workshops with like our EOP department, for example. So we would partner up with the department and we would know that those students that were in EOP were very often eligible for CalFresh. And so we would host this workshop, in a computer lab where they were all able to do the application sort of step by step with us. And we've seen plenty of campuses sort of adopt that idea. And then finally, the super clinic ideas. So I know that this is definitely something that's big in the UC system. So they really like doing these super clinics where, the county might be there. The county might be able to sort of help the student get through that interview process even. So again, it's another big concentrated effort to help a lot of applicants get through the process quickly. And it just sort of looks a different way, but it's the same idea and the same outcome. And so, yeah, just really going back to that, you're going to get the best results when the event meets the students or the applicants where they're at. So, for example, Chico State, if you've never been there, we are not a commuter campus. I mean, for the most part, we definitely have students that are on campus all day. They might be working on campus. The town of Chico is really built around the campus, so it's really a different vibe than some of the other campuses that we've been to, where students are sort of in and out, just there to take their one class for the day, and then they're off to, working their job or going and doing whatever they're doing. So we definitely understand that, maybe an all-day event may not look the same on your campus because of where your students are at and when they're on campus and what works for them. So in that case, I would say if you have more of a commuter style campus, it might be better to do some sort of structured 1-hour workshop style event or something like that. Just really, your students or the people that you're working with way better. And so just make sure that you're really keeping that in mind. I would also love if any of you have any extra things that you want to share about a CalFresh Outreach Day that you've done on your campus, or anything that has worked really well for you. I do want to also plug a second thing. We do have a CSU-wide CalFresh Outreach Day on February 27th. So if you're a CSU, you probably already know about this. But it is really a system-wide effort to just really do some sort of big push for helping students apply with that CalFresh application all on that same day. So yeah, does anyone have anything they'd like to share about any CalFresh Outreach Day that they've done? Give you guys a minute.
If you do, type it in and we can unmute you and let you talk.
Oh, Jessica from Fresno State has some fun things planned for 227. I figured you guys did. I know that you guys go all out, so I'm excited to hear that. Yeah, so it'll be really cool to sort of see what all the campuses are end up doing on that special day. So we're really hoping to see pictures and just hear how it went. I mean, even if it doesn't work out exactly like you imagine, we would love to hear your experiences and sort of what you've learned, because we really want to broaden this sort of webinar as much as we can. We really want to add more ideas of just what you're experiencing and what you've learned over doing these.
I love the photo booth idea. I think that's going to be pretty fun. Do take pictures and share.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be super fun, Jessica. Oh, I'm so excited to see those pictures. All right. So I guess we are at the time for questions. So does anyone have any questions sort of about what the day might look like, or what sort of is next in planning for a CalFresh Outreach Day? Go ahead and type them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself also if that's easier. But we'll let you guys have a few minutes if you have any question, or a minute or two if you have any questions that we can answer. And anything else to add to that, Melissa or Karina?
No, I was just going to say that we didn't really present this is not a huge technical topic. This is just have fun with it. It's a fun event. And I like what Jessica said about reducing stigma. Again, that's something that we're all striving to do. So make it a fun event so that we can help reduce that stigma with around that fun too. So.
Brandy, can I ask a question?
Of course.
So I hear that some people use volunteers for this particular event. What kind of protocol do you go through with the volunteers before? Because they'll be collecting, if they would be collecting the information on the confidential information. So what do you propose? What does anybody else do with volunteers?
That's a great question. So in the past, we have partnered with a couple of the health and organizations on our campus. So usually when we have that sort of partnership and we have volunteers that are not really well versed in CalFresh and sort of those, maybe those talking points or the eligibility, we would not have them necessarily helping with the actual applications, but we would have them help sort of with drawing people in and really sort of doing those more basic things where they don't need that whole foundation of the CalFresh information. I would think that would be sort of the way to go about that, just because, I mean, as you probably know, CalFresh is very complicated. So to really have people helping with the actual application and the pre-screening, they definitely need a little bit more information. But absolutely, if you have volunteers or other organizations that want to partner up with this, I would say if they're not familiar with CalFresh, then that is the perfect sort of role for them.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
I see, Koji, in your chat box, you're going to do your Mountie Fresh Day on April 16th. And I do like that idea of doing a yoga demo and having cooking demos by your chef. So again, food draws people in. So excited to hear how that goes on April 16th. By the way, this is Melissa. And yes, I will send the presentation to you and Brenda. And looking forward to seeing you at the summit as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's move to the next slide. Did anyone catch the homonym? And if so, which slide was it on? Go ahead and type that in the chat box. Crickets.
I have to admit that I had to look up what a homonym was when I saw these slides, because I couldn't remember from my middle school training.
Well, that's why we wanted to make it a little extra hard by using that nice homonym term rather than. Okay, so Brandy, can you go back to that slide? We figured people would have to do that. So it's a word.
My gosh, that makes me feel so much better. Thank you, Judy and Jessica.
So it's a word. Yes, everybody will be getting the presentation. We'll make sure that we will send that out to everybody. It's a word that has different meanings and can be spelled differently, but it's pronounced the same. So if we scan back up to the slide on, I think it's titled.
Yeah, Jessica got it.
Preparation.
Oh, Jessica got it.
Did you think, oh my gosh, they didn't catch this typo? So whether or not, it should have been weather, W-H-E-T-H-E-R, but I decided to throw something a little fun in there just to keep your Friday on, keep you on your toes on Friday. So it should be weather, W-H-E-T-H-E-R, not weather, but we were talking about weather, so whether or not you were paying attention, we put it in there. All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so it looks like we're done. So I hope that everyone else enjoys their Friday. Like Melissa shared, we will definitely send out this presentation to everyone so that you have it. We will also make sure that the YouTube the link is sent out as well, so that if anyone on your team would like to watch this and get caught up on this, you'll be able to have that to send to them. So yeah, feel free again to stick around, ask any questions that you might have. But if you don't have any other questions, then thank you for joining us.
Brandy, it looks like Sue is asking about the March 5th and 6th events. And so that is the CalFresh Summit and Forum. And everyone should have received a link to that. I believe that went out last week.
Yes, I think it did go out last week.
Did you get that, Sue? Did you get that event? Did you get that link? If not, we can make sure we send that back out to you if you let us know where you're from.
Oh, the difference between the two. Yes. So March 5th is really focused on all of the subcontractors that we're working with. So we have 5 Far North subcontractors we've been working with, as well as, I believe, 39 campus subcontractors. So everyone that is sort of under our umbrella for this project are all meeting on the 5th. And it's going to be a really good day of networking and meeting other people that are doing the same work. And it's just going to be a really fun day to sort of hear about what everyone's doing around the state. March 6th is more so about, it's the big CalFresh event that everyone from, the stateside part of it. So CDSS will be there. Food policy advocates will be there. Plenty of the subcontractors will be there also. So it'll be definitely 2 different days, but it'll all sort of complement that same work. It looks like Zach posted a link too, so if you want to check that out for more information, definitely click on that link in the chat box.
And if you have any specific questions about the summit, do reach out to your program managers, because that's what we're here for, is to help you with that. Any other questions?
So Brandy, it looks like Betty might have a question as well.
Okay, yes. Will you be doing anything like this for seniors with the reversal of cash out? Yes, we definitely can. I know that we're really, we're involved in a lot of the work group work that's happening around this subject. And I believe that we are going to be doing some sort of webinar about that, but I can definitely follow up with you and make sure that you have more information about that particular subject. But yes, I think that on our calendars, we're planning to do a webinar on that very subject.
Okay, I think we're good. We have finished early for a Friday. Woohoo! I hope everybody's having a great Friday, and thank you. We will hopefully see you next month.
Or next week for our social media webinar, 10 a.m. on Friday.
Or next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.